Welcome back to Quarter Dollar. If you think pennies aren't worth much, today's video is going to surprise you. Some Lincoln 1 cents hiding in jars, drawers, or even loose change have sold for thousands, and in rare cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Each coin has its own story and error, a low mintage, or just the right condition that makes collectors go crazy for it. And the best part, anyone could stumble across one without even realizing it. If you enjoy discovering hidden treasures and learning the secrets behind coins that look ordinary but aren't, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. First up, we have a 1966 Lincoln cent, and at first glance it might look like an ordinary, well-worn penny. But here's the thing, 1966 was a wild year for US coinage. The mint was under pressure because of a nationwide coin shortage, and to speed up production, they cut back on mint marks. That's why you won't see a D or an S on this coin. Every cent struck in 1966 looks like it came from Philadelphia, even if it didn't, which already makes the year stand out to collectors. Now, the coin in your hand shows heavy circulation wear, with smoothing on Lincoln's hair and cheek and some fading in the lettering. That puts it in the lower circulated grades. In this condition, it's worth only face value. But here's where the story takes a sharp turn. In higher grades, especially if you happen to find a brilliant red example preserved since 1966, the value skyrockets. Collectors pay top dollar for coins that somehow survived nearly 60 years without losing their luster. A red mint state 1966 cent graded MS67 by PCGS has crossed the auction block for well over $5,000. That's a shocking price for a coin most people would toss into a jar without a second thought. And it gets even crazier when you talk about errors. Because 1966 cents were mass-produced during the mint's rush, striking mistakes slipped through. Off-center strikes, double dies, and clipped plankets are all documented for this year. A dramatic off-center example with clear details can bring in hundreds, sometimes thousands, depending on how far the strike is off. Double die errors where parts of the design are doubled are especially desirable. Even minor ones can push values into the four-figure range. Imagine pulling a penny out of change and realizing it's a $10,000 error coin. That's the kind of excitement that keeps collectors searching. The most jaw-dropping part? There are stories of rare high-grade 1966 cents with unique toning or nearly flawless strikes fetching numbers that creep toward six figures in auction catalogs. It's unbelievable for a coin that started out as just 1 cent. The key is knowing how to identify them. Look for vibrant original color, sharp edges, and any signs of doubling in the lettering or date. Even circulated coins like this one can spark curiosity if you noticed something unusual in the strike. So, the 1966 Lincoln cent proves an important point: never underestimate a common year. Millions were made, but only a handful escaped the grind of daily use in pristine condition, and those survivors are the ones that command serious money. Check your change carefully, because even a rough, ordinary-looking penny can hide details that turn it into a rare treasure. Next up, we're moving on to another Lincoln cent that hides its own shocking secret. Next up, let's talk about a 1975 D Lincoln cent. At first glance, it may look like just another brown, circulated penny, but don't let the wear fool you. Coins from this year and mint mark can hold surprising value under the right circumstances. The one in front of us shows clear signs of circulation. The surface has softened over time. Lincoln's portrait has lost some of its sharp detail, and there are patches of spotting and discoloration across the fields. In this condition, it sits at face value. But here's where things get exciting when you move away from worn examples and into high-grade, pristine survivors. The story changes dramatically. Collectors prize the 1975D for the few that manage to survive in blazing red and touched condition. Mint state coins graded MS67 and higher are incredibly tough to find. Most coins from this era were stored in rolls or bags where they picked up marks, spots, and dullness. A true gem example without those flaws is rare, and that rarity translates to big money. At auction, Red 1975D cents in MS67 have pushed beyond $5,000, while whispers of potential MS68 coins fuel speculation that one day a near-perfect example could command $50,000 or more. Asterisk, but errors are where the real jaw-droppers lie. The 1975D is known to have dramatic double-die obverse varieties, with visible doubling in the date or lettering. If you spot bold doubling in Liberty or In God We Trust, you could be holding something worth thousands. Even minor doubling pushes these coins into collector demand. Then there are striking errors, off-center strikes, broad strikes, or missing elements. A bold off-center error with full date and mint mark visible can fetch for figures easily. And here's the kicker. Some documented off-metal strikes from this year have hit the market. Imagine a 1975D cent mistakenly struck on a dime planchette. That's the kind of oddity that can reach $100,000 at a major auction. Asterisk. The wildest speculation among collectors is tied to the elusive proofs of the mid-70s. Denver wasn't supposed to strike proofs, but mistakes have slipped out of the mint before. If a genuine 1975D proof-like error or experimental strike were ever authenticated, the value could shoot into six-figure territory. Some collectors believe it's only a matter of time before one turns up. That anticipation alone fuels the chase. Asterisk, so while the coin in front of us tells the everyday story of a penny that's been passed hand to hand for decades, the hidden reality is that 1975D Lincoln cents can, under the right conditions, transform into serious treasures. The spread between a circulated example and a rare, pristine, or error variety is enormous, from 1 cent all the way into the hundreds of thousands. And that's what makes searching through even ordinary-looking pennies so exciting. Asterisk, moving on. Let's see what the next Lincoln cent has in store. It just might shock you even more. Moving on, the 1960D Lincoln cent is one of those coins that proves a simple penny can hide a secret worth a fortune. At first glance, the coin we're looking at shows its age. The surfaces are darkened from circulation, Lincoln's profile is softened, and small scratches run across the fields. It's the kind of coin that most people would dismiss as pocket change. But here's where the story takes a dramatic twist, because 1960 from the Denver Mint gave us one of the most fascinating and valuable varieties in the entire Lincoln cent series. Asterisk. This was the year of the small date versus large date issue, and it caused a sensation. When dies were first prepared, the date was punched in with larger numerals, but the mint corrected the style by punching in smaller ones. That tiny adjustment created one of the greatest double date varieties in history, the 1960D small date over large date. Think about that, a date struck over another date. Visible under magnification, forever locking a mint error into history. Only a small number of these slipped into circulation before officials caught the mistake. And today, they are among the most hunted pennies in America. Asterisk, now here's where value makes jaws drop. A circulated 1960D without errors is still just 1 cent, but a certified small date over large date in gem red condition has brought more than $40,000 at auction. And if a flawless specimen were to appear, one of those almost mythical MS67 or MS68 survivors, it could easily spark a bidding war pushing past $250,000. Imagine turning over a penny from a coffee can and realizing it could pay off a mortgage. That's the shock factor that keeps collectors awake at night. Asterisk, it doesn't end with the famous variety. The 1960D also produced wild errors. There are double dies with thick, clear doubling in the numbers of the date or the word Liberty. There are off-center strikes where Lincoln's bust is shifted dramatically, leaving part of the coin blank. There are clipped plankets where a chunk of metal is missing from the edge. Any of these mistakes can catapult value into the thousands, and when rare errors combine with the already desirable small date over large date, the sky's the limit. Even stranger, off-metal strikes have been reported since struck on dime plankets or foreign coin blanks. Those oddities are so rare they can hit $100,000 and beyond under the glare of auction lights. Asterisk. Another reason the 1960D excites collectors is the difficulty of finding coins in bright red condition. Copper reacts with the environment quickly, and most coins darken to brown or red-brown, just like the one here. But if you ever come across a blazing red 1960D without spots or marks, you found a treasure. Certified population reports show just a handful at the highest levels, and when they appear for sale, serious money follows. So, while this coin in hand looks ordinary, the truth is the 1960D has the power to shock. From a coin jar find worth 1 cent to a rare variety worth hundreds of thousands, this penny shows how much history and value can hide in something so small. And that's the thrill every time you pick up a Lincoln cent. You never know if you're holding pocket change or a hidden fortune. Next up, get ready, because the Lincoln cent we're about to look at carries a surprise that could be even bigger. Next up, we've got the 1971D Lincoln cent, and this one has a story that can shock even long-time collectors. At first sight, the example we're looking at has seen decades of circulation. The fields are dark and mottled, the details in Lincoln's hair and cheek are worn, and the surfaces show that reddish-brown patina that comes with age. In this condition, it doesn't look like more than a penny, but the truth is, the 1971D has one of the most famous double die varieties of the entire Lincoln cent series. And it's a variety that has turned everyday pocket change into small fortunes. Asterisk, the 1971 double die is legendary. While the Philadelphia Mint struck the most famous version, Denver cents are also known for striking errors, and collectors eagerly watch every 1971D for doubling. When strong doubling shows on Liberty, In God We Trust, or even the date itself, the coin suddenly changes its identity from a cent to a collectible worth thousands. Even a circulated double die example can bring in serious money, while uncirculated gems with bold doubling are auction room treasures. Some have sold for tens of thousands, and experts believe that the very finest examples perfect. Blazing red specimens could push toward $150,000 or even higher if the right buyers compete. Asterisk, and here's the part that makes this coin so fascinating. It's a sleeper year. Millions of 1971D cents were minted, and most are common. But the few that slipped through with mistakes are like needles in a haystack. Collectors have reported wild errors from this year, including broad strikes, off-center strikes, and dramatic die breaks that create what collectors call cuts on the surface. Each of these errors can elevate a penny's value from 1 cent to hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Imagine finding a 1971D with a bold die break covering part of Lincoln's portrait. Such a coin could easily sell for $5,000 to $10,000, depending on the size and visibility of the flaw. Asterisk, but the real shocker is the potential of high-grade, perfectly preserved examples. Copper is notoriously hard to keep pristine, and most 1971D cents show spots, toning, or tiny marks. That's why population reports from grading companies show so few at the highest levels. A true MS67 red 1971D is rare, and when these gems surface, they draw major attention. Prices have soared into 5 figures, and some numismatists speculate that if an MS68 red were ever discovered and certified, it could be a 6-figure coin over $300,000 because of its sheer rarity. Asterisk, so here's the big picture. While the circulated 1971D we see here looks humble, the potential hidden within this date and mint mark is staggering. From dramatic double dies to flawless red survivors, this year has the power to transform a cent into a prize worth as much as a luxury car or even a house. That's what makes coin hunting so addictive. Every time you turn over an ordinary-looking penny, you have no idea if you're holding just change or a ticket to a life-changing discovery. Asterisk, and speaking of discoveries, the next Lincoln cent we'll look at carries a shock of its own. You'll want to stick around because its value might just leave you speechless. Next up, we've got a coin that truly keeps collectors on their toes, the 1982 Lincoln cent. At first glance, the one we're holding shows plenty of wear. The fields are rough, the luster has long since faded, and the details of Lincoln's portrait are soft and worn down by years of circulation. On the surface, it looks like just another common penny. But 1982 was a year of massive transition at the US Mint, and because of that, it hides one of the most fascinating and valuable stories in all of modern coin collecting. Asterisk, this was the year the Mint shifted from heavy copper cents to lighter zinc-coated coins. For decades, Lincoln cents were struck on 95% copper plankets, but by mid-1982, rising copper prices forced the Mint to switch to copper-plated zinc. That single change created an incredible situation. 7 different varieties of 1982 cents exist, based on large date, small date, and whether the coin was struck on copper or zinc. And here's the shocker, some 1982 cents with the wrong metal slipped through the cracks. And those are worth fortunes. Asterisk, the holy grail is the 1982D small date struck on a copper planchet. Most Denver coins from this year were zinc, but somehow, a handful were accidentally struck on leftover copper blanks. They look almost identical to a regular penny, but they weigh 3.1 grams instead of 2.5 grams. Fewer than 20 of these have ever been confirmed, making them one of the rarest Lincoln cents in existence. The value is jaw-dropping. One sold at auction for over $18,000. And experts believe the finest known examples could someday push $250,000 to $300,000 if they surface in gem red condition. Asterisk, and it doesn't end there. Collectors also hunt for dramatic double dies and off-center strikes from 1982, a doubled 2 in the date or a strong doubled liberty can transform a common coin into a collectible worth thousands. Combine that with the copper-zinc transition, and 1982 becomes one of the most complicated and exciting years for Lincoln cents. There are even reports of transitional errors, coins struck on the wrong planchet entirely. If an authentic 1982 small date copper cent were discovered in pristine condition, untouched since minting, its value could easily skyrocket past $350,000. That's the kind of once-in-a-lifetime discovery collectors dream about. Asterisk, even with ordinary 1982 coins, condition plays a huge role. A regular zinc cent in well-worn condition is worth face value, but in mint state, brilliant red, with no spots or flaws, it can bring in hundreds. Top-graded examples in M67 red have sold for over $1,000. That kind of spread from 1 cent to 4 figures shows just how powerful condition and rarity are in determining value. Asterisk. So while this circulated 1982 looks like an everyday penny, the truth is this date hides one of the most exciting chases in modern numismatics. With multiple varieties, metal transitions, and a once-in-a-generation error that can be worth hundreds of thousands, the 1982 Lincoln cent proves that a small change in metal can create a big fortune. Asterisk, moving on. The next Lincoln cent has its own shocking story, one that could rival even this legendary year. Next up, we've got the 1963D Lincoln cent. And while it looks like just another brown penny worn down from years of circulation, this date and mint mark carry stories that can shock even seasoned collectors. The coin here shows its age. Lincoln's portrait is soft, the lettering isn't sharp, and the once bright copper has toned down into a dull brown surface. In this condition, it sits at face value. But when you dive into the history of the 1963D, the potential for incredible value suddenly comes to life. Asterisk, Denver struck over $1 billion cents in 1963. So at first glance, you'd think they're all common. But among those billions are rare gems and striking mistakes that collectors chase with fierce passion. The most desirable are coins that survived in blazing red condition, a perfectly preserved and touched 1963D with no spots, no scratches, and full luster can bring shocking amounts at auction. Examples graded MS67 red have sold for over $7,000, and the finest known survivors push higher still. Some experts believe that if an MS68 red were ever certified, it could easily break the $50,000 mark. For a coin that cost 1 cent to mint, that's staggering. Asterisk, but the real magic of the 1963D comes when you factor in errors. Denver's mass production that year produced some spectacular mistakes. Collectors have documented dramatic off-center strikes where Lincoln's bust is shifted so far that part of the coin is blank. Others show broad strikes that stretch the coin beyond its normal size. These unusual errors can sell for hundreds to thousands, depending on how dramatic the flaw is. Even more valuable are double dies. A strong double die showing on Liberty or In God We Trust can transform a common cent into a coin worth $10,000 or more, especially in uncirculated condition. Asterisk, then there are the wild, once-in-a-lifetime discoveries, off-metal strikes. Imagine a 1963 cent struck on a dime planchette or on the wrong foreign blank. These oddities are incredibly rare, but when they surface, they bring jaw-dropping numbers. Some documented off-metal Lincoln cents from the early 60s have crossed the six-figure mark. If one were confirmed for 1963D in pristine condition, it wouldn't be far-fetched to see it sell for $300,000 or even more at a major auction. Asterisk, what's fascinating is how few people check their old 1963D pennies closely. Millions sit in jars, forgotten because they look ordinary. Yet hidden among them could be a double die worth thousands, or a gem red survivor worth tens of thousands, or even a once-in-a-generation error worth six figures. That's the thrill of coin hunting. You never know when an everyday coin will turn into a treasure. Asterisk, so while this example looks like a simple penny that's been around for decades, the truth is the 1963D is a sleeper coin, capable of shocking collectors with its potential value. From face value to hundreds of thousands, this cent reminds us why every old coin deserves a second look. Asterisk, and with that, let's keep the momentum going. Our next Lincoln cent has a story that could be even more surprising. Next up, we've got a 1979 Lincoln cent. And while the example here has clearly seen some rough years, scratches across the surface, heavy wear on Lincoln's face, and dark, uneven color, the story of this date is far more exciting than its appearance suggests. On the surface, it looks like a penny that's been through thousands of hands. But hidden within the 1979 series are surprises that can turn a cent into a serious payday. Asterisk, this was a year when the mint was running full steam, producing billions of coins, and with that sheer volume came mistakes. Some of the most dramatic errors of the 1979 Lincoln cent are off-center strikes. A bold off-center error with the date still showing can easily push into the thousands. Broad strikes and partial collar strikes from this year also appear in the market, and they bring collector premiums that are many times the face value. Then there are double die varieties, rare, but when found, they ignite serious bidding wars. A strong double die in the date where the inscriptions can be worth $5,000 to $15,000 in the right condition. Asterisk, what really stuns collectors, though, are off-metal strikes. A few 1979 cents were mistakenly struck on dime plankets or other foreign blanks. These are the kinds of errors that don't just surprise collectors, they shock them. A 1979 off-metal strike authenticated by a grading service has the power to fetch tens of thousands. And some specialists speculate that a gem uncirculated off-metal 1979 cent could reach six figures if one surfaced today. Asterisk, condition, as always, is a game changer. The coin in front of us is heavily circulated, and in this state it has no premium beyond face value. But take the same date in blazing red, pristine condition, and the numbers leap. MS67 red examples are rare, with very few certified, and when they hit the auction block, they can sell for $2,500 to $5,000. If an MS68 red were ever certified, it would be a major event. Some collectors believe such a coin could push beyond $50,000 simply because of how hard it is to find. Copper coins from this period are notorious for spotting, toning, and picking up tiny flaws, which makes high-grade survivors extremely rare. Asterisk. The fascination with 1979 also comes from the fact that it's a transition year just before the small date. Zinc changes of the early 80s, collectors. Look closely at these late 70s. Cents for die varieties and hidden rarities. That might have gone unnoticed. And the thought that a coin pulled from a coffee can or an old desk drawer could be worth thousands or even more keeps people searching. Asterisk, so while this 1979 cent in hand looks rough, the truth is this date hides treasures that could shock even the most experienced numismatists. From dramatic striking errors to off-metal mistakes and gem-grade rarities, the potential spread in value goes from 1 cent all the way into 6 figures. That's what makes the Lincoln series so addictive. Every coin, no matter how ordinary it looks, has the chance to reveal a shocking secret. Asterisk, and with that, let's move on to the next Lincoln cent, one that could carry an even bigger surprise. Next up, let's take a closer look at the 1967 Lincoln cent. At first glance, the coin in front of us shows its long journey, dark brown surfaces, faded details in Lincoln's hair and cheek, and a well-worn appearance from decades of circulation. Most people would look at this and think it's nothing more than an old penny. But the truth is, 1967 cents can hold surprises that shock collectors and turn pocket change into serious money. Asterisk. This was a turbulent year for U.S. coinage. The mint was producing massive numbers of coins during a time when mint marks were temporarily removed, making it a little harder for collectors to track where coins were struck. With that rush of production, striking errors became more common, and those errors are exactly what collectors hunt for today. Dramatic off-center strikes, for example, are well documented in 1967 cents. A coin that's 50% off-center with a full date visible can bring hundreds or even thousands, depending on condition. Broad strikes and misaligned dies also show up, each commanding premiums far beyond face value. Asterisk, but the real gems are double dies. A bold double die in the lettering or date instantly elevates a 1967 cent into the spotlight. Even moderate doubling can command for figures at auction, while strong, clear doubling in uncirculated red examples could climb to $10,000 or more. Imagine pulling a coin out of a drawer and realizing the letters are doubled. That simple discovery could change a 1-cent piece into a 5-figure treasure. Asterisk. High-grade survivors also make 1967 an exciting year. Copper coins are tough to keep pristine, and most have toned down like this example. But the few that remain bright red, fully lustrous, and virtually flawless are extremely rare. Population reports show just a handful of MS67 red coins, and when they hit the market, they sell for thousands. Collectors speculate that if an MS68 red example ever surfaced, it could push well into 6-figure territory, possibly $300,000 or more because of how extraordinarily rare it would be. Asterisk. Then there are the transitional oddities. With the mint experimenting during this era, a few unusual pieces slipped out, coins struck on wrong blankets, thin or thick stock, or even foreign blanks. These kinds of transitional errors are incredibly scarce, but when authenticated, they've stunned the hobby with 6-figure prices. A 1967 cent struck on a dime or nickel planchet could be a once-in-a-lifetime find worth more than most people's entire coin collections. Asterisk. So while this circulated 1967 cent in hand tells the story of everyday use, the hidden potential of this year is jaw-dropping. From double dies to dramatic errors, from gem survivors to transitional mistakes, the spread in value runs from 1 cent all the way to hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's what makes hunting through old pennies so thrilling. You never know which one might hold the key to a fortune. Asterisk. Moving forward, the next Lincoln cent in our lineup carries its own mystery, and its value might just leave you speechless. Next up, we've got a 1981 Lincoln cent. And while the coin in front of us shows heavy circulation with scratches, dulling, and discoloration, this year has a story that makes collectors lean in closer. By 1981, the mint was producing billions of pennies every year, but it was also right before one of the biggest shifts in U.S. coin history, the move away from copper to zinc in 1982, that makes the last years of copper cents especially interesting. And the 1981 is no exception. Asterisk most circulated examples like this one are only worth face value. But when you start digging into condition, rarity, and errors, things get exciting. Brilliant red mint state coins are far harder to find than people realize. Most 1981 cents have toned down, spotted, or picked up bag marks. The few that survive untouched in blazing red are rare, and collectors pay big premiums for them. Auction records show MS67 red examples selling in the $2,000 to $3,000 range, and experts believe if an MS68 red were ever certified, it could spark a bidding war pushing $25,000 or more. For a modern cent, that's a shocking number, asterisk, but the real thrill comes with errors. Denver in 1981 produced some spectacular mistakes. Off-center strikes with full dates visible are extremely desirable, often selling for hundreds to thousands depending on how dramatic the shift is. Broad strikes and die caps where part of the design is stretched or flattened have also been documented and are highly collectible. Then there are double dies, and while rare for this year, when bold doubling is spotted in the date or inscriptions, the value can soar into the five-figure range. Asterisk collectors also hunt for transitional oddities tied to this date. Since 1980, to mark the official switch to zinc, any experimental strikes or planchette mix-ups that happened in 1981 would be extraordinary. Imagine a 1981D struck on a zinc planchette before the official transition. Such a discovery would be historic. If authenticated, a transitional error like that could easily break into six figures, possibly topping $300,000 at a major auction. That's the kind of once-in-a-lifetime coin that instantly becomes the centerpiece of a world-class collection, asterisk even with ordinary strikes. The spread in value between a circulated brown example and a flawless gem is massive. Most people dismiss their 1981D pennies as common, but the truth is, the hidden gems are still out there. And every so often, a new discovery from this year reminds collectors that no date should ever be ignored. Asterisk. So while this 1981D looks like just a worn copper cent, the reality is that under the right conditions, with the right errors or pristine preservation, it can transform from a penny into a coin worth tens of thousands, and in rare cases, potentially hundreds of thousands. That's the magic of the Lincoln Cent series, even in the modern era. There are surprises that can shock the hobby, asterisk, and with that, let's move into our final Lincoln Cent for this lineup, one that may just deliver the biggest surprise of them all. Finally, let's take a close look at the 1968D Lincoln Cent. The example here shows heavy corrosion and discoloration, with much of its original luster long gone. Lincoln's profile is rough, the surfaces are pitted, and the coin carries all the signs of decades of circulation and exposure. In this condition, it isn't worth more than face value. But the year 1968D is far from ordinary. This date hides a story that can make even a single penny worth a fortune. Asterisk, the Denver Mint struck over 2.8 billion cents in 1968, so the vast majority are common. But what makes this year so intriguing are the rare double dies and dramatic striking errors that slip through in that huge production run. Collectors especially hunt for double dies on the obverse where In God We Trust or Liberty shows strong doubling. Even moderate doubling can turn a coin into a $1,000 collectible, while bold, clear examples in mint condition have brought $10,000 or more. That's a stunning leap from just 1 cent. Asterisk, then there are the off-center errors. A 1968D struck for off-center, but still showing a full date can bring several $1,000s, depending on condition. Add in broad strikes, die breaks, or clipped plankets, and the value climbs even higher. A large die break across Lincoln's portrait era can easily sell for $5,000 to $15,000 in the right market. Asterisk, high-grade survivors also tell an incredible story. Most 1968D cents, even those pulled from circulation decades ago, have toned down to brown or red-brown. Brilliant red examples with full luster are rare, especially at the top grading levels. PCGs and NGC have certified very few MS67 red coins, and when they appear, They can sell for $7,000 to $10,000, but the real speculation lies with an MS-68 red, something so rare that if one were ever discovered, it could break into six figures. Collectors whisper that such a find could be a $300,000 coin, simply because of its rarity and condition. Asterisk. There are also tales of transitional and experimental strikes during this era. Denver was under pressure to meet demand, and oddities occasionally left the presses. A 1968D struck on the wrong planchette, for example, on a dime or foreign blank, would be a showstopper. Such a discovery could easily rival the most famous Lincoln cent errors and bring hundreds of thousands at auction. Asterisk. So while the coin in front of us tells the story of heavy circulation, the hidden truth of the 1968D cent is electrifying. From dramatic double dies to rare gem survivors, from off-metal errors to spectacular off-center strikes, this year has everything that makes coin hunting so thrilling. The spread in value runs from 1 cent all the way into the high six figures. That kind of range is what keeps collectors searching, because even a penny that looks worthless could hide the key to a shocking treasure. Asterisk. And there you have it, the Lincoln cents that prove every pocket change search can be an adventure, with the potential to turn 1 cent into life-changing money.